of your family members formed this group originally.
Right.
And did you still all get along? Now, be honest with me, huh?
No, we hate each other. I mean, that's where all the the juice comes from. Look, of course, we're siblings, so there's management involved. If it was all just a tiptoe through the tulips, there'd be something a little bit spooky and weird about that. We're real people, we're a real family, and I think also that the other members of the band are accepted as the same, family members. But you've got your highs, you've got your lows, but we know when to give each other some space, and certainly when we can party together. Yeah.
Which one of you came up with the name In Excess? Who did that?
Okay, look,
INXS.
Yeah, exactly. It actually wasn't a band member. Believe it or not, it was. I think it was a roadie which mentioned it to one of our earlier management. Who came up with the idea. Believe it or not. I mean, that's the story. That's as far as I know, that's the truth. But it was a pretty good idea, and so we grabbed it.
Look good on a license plate here.
Exactly.
INXS.
Look, I mean, it's great for graphics. It's 4 letters. It sort of sums it up, and I suppose you'd really sum up our career as being excessive. Yeah.
When you got started, though, what was it, about 77, 78 in there?
Yep.
It was, to me, new wave and some ska music in there, which I still hear.
Well, it was. I mean, around 77 was a very prolific period, I think, where maybe it was technology, radio, television, were all combining, and you had elements of the end traces of the Eagles, Linda Ronstadt style American music, and then you had something like punk.
Yeah.
You had disco, and all these different sort of elements. I think, including things like jazz, like Steely Dan, Doobie Brothers, all that sort of stuff. In Excess. We're listening to all that stuff, including ska music, and I think we integrated a lot of all of that stuff into one sort of melting pot. And I think we had problems in the beginning of actually having our sound because we had so many different routes that we were trying to sort of discover what was going to be our scene.
Well, something worked because I just read some stats. You're the 3rd biggest selling Australian group in history.
Okay.
Worldwide.
Okay.
And in the United States and Canada, particularly. You had the problem in Australia that we had here. We didn't have an infrastructure. People that know how to produce.
Exactly.
All of that, it was missing.
Exactly.
And that held us back. Did it hold you back too?
Well, it did, and also the geographical element. Of course, we were right at the very opposite end of the planet, and even for us in Excess to, back in the very early 80s, to get outside of Australia and to be able to raise the capital just to get the band out of the country, along with crew and equipment, it was always like an expedition. It was something akin to the explorers, really, I suppose. Yeah. I mean, we feel proud to be Australian, of course, but we're also very proud, I think, that we did pioneer a fair bit of international touring and breaking away from the confines of the geographical restrictions in Australia. So, well, the original video of Original Sin was shot in Tokyo. And that was back in about 1983, and at that time, there was a big upsurge in the, I guess the Japanese element. There was a lot of Japanese artists coming out of Japan at the time, and we were fortunate enough to work with some Japanese artists. Came down to Australia, but we had some interesting anecdotes about Japan at the time because one of the videos, including Original Sin, we'd used a marketing firm who usually do advertisements because we found something quirky about the way the Japanese sort of saw things, and they were very sort of iconic with the way they would use their cinematography. So we used a advertising company, and we were the first musical rock band basically ever to be allowed into a Japanese temple to film. And when we asked basically the head monk how did he let us into this beautiful temple, never in 1,000 years had anyone done that. And he said, because I play trumpet.
What?
Yeah, so this head monk, this dude, amazing guy, just starts playing this amazing trumpet. And he was a fan of music, so he let us film in there. We performed in Vancouver for the Winter Olympics, which was great. Amazing festive sort of feeling, and the streets were. I was in my hotel room when Canada beat USA in hockey. I mean, that was the penultimate moment where the whole city erupted. But we were proud to be part of that.
people say, well, look, all the great things that have happened. But one of the sad things that happened to you was Michael Hutchence when he passed away. Your lead singer, handsome guy, if I remember, and you didn't perform for a year after that, did you?
No, we didn't. No, of course, it was absolute shock to us, and the ramifications of his passing, was far-reaching, very deep. And of course, the first thing we all thought was, that's it, that's the end of that, But I guess like any experience that you have surrounding death, and we all do have that because that's part of life, is that you realize that we're all alive and we move on and we look to the things that make life good and what's positive about life. And for us, it's music.
And then you went out and you did the right thing. You looked for a new lead singer, went through a couple, and then you ended up with Mr. Fortune from from Canada here, and he had his moments. But nevertheless, the band survives, and you're not the only ones that have done that. Journey did that, and others. You go and see the band, and they carry on, and that's the way. I mean, all your brothers carry on the sound anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I'm right. The last count, you had 6 or more recording industry awards from Australia. So that's like our IAA up here.
Right.
So that must have made you feel good.
Yeah, of course. Look, the accolades along the way, I think, they're certainly very good for the morale, and of course, there are times to celebrate, and we've been very fortunate in our career, not only in Australia but in many countries in the world, where we've been able to sort of come in like bandits and walk away stealing lots of sort of local accolades. But look, we're still very, very grateful and gracious about it.
Nice talking to you. You've made this a pleasure for me because you're so articulate. You know which way I'm going and have the answers and have had the career. And I wish you guys a lot of great luck continuously.
Thank you very much.